In early February of 2012, a foul stench emanated throughout the Portsmouth community of Portmore in St. Catherine. Upon investigation, residents discovered that it was coming from the home of Susan Smith. But when they asked Susan, "What is that strange smell coming from your house?" Susan brushed it off and said, "Must be some dead rats." Now, Susan lived in the house with her sister Stacey Ann, but about a year earlier, Stacey Ann had moved to the Cayman Islands for work. The two sisters lost their mother when they were teenagers, and they and three other sisters were raised by their father. Now, according to the Gleaner, neighbors reported that the two didn't really get along so well, and that Stacey Ann was always complaining that Susan kinda nasty. But while she was in Cayman, Stacey Ann was an avid user of Facebook, and she used to post frequently about how she missed her family, especially her 15-year-old son. She would post about her faith in God and how she trusted God to allow her to see her family very soon. And just a month before, on January 3rd, she marked her 1-year anniversary away from home by asking God to help her visit home to see her family and friends that year. All this time, Stacey was working and sending money back home to her sister Susan to make additions to the house where Susan and her 4 children lived. It's reported that the sister's father also lived at the house at that time. On January 29, Stacey Ann finally gets her wish and boards a plane to Jamaica from the Cayman Islands. That same night, neighbors said they heard fighting coming from the house, but the music was turned up very loud, so people couldn't really tell what exactly was happening over there. Several days later, neighbors started to smell a foul stench coming from that house. And if you know anything about Portmore, you know so the house then close bad. So the smell was coming up strong in the neighbors' houses, but they couldn't imagine what it was. It just so happened that around about the same time, the sister's father had gone out of parish and Stacey Ann's 15-year-old son was staying with an aunt. Now, the Gleaner report doesn't make it clear who reported Stacey Ann missing, but a report was made to the police. And the stench coming from the house was raising suspicions. The police entered the residence. They followed the stench to freshly laid concrete in an unfinished room. With a little digging, they found Stacey Ann's body in a crocus bag buried beneath the cement. Neighbors, family, and friends were left reeling from the gruesome discovery and the shock of the sister Susan's arrest. There was an outpouring of grief for Stacey Ann, known to her loved ones as Sunshine. I remember the 28th of January, you sat in my house while I was giving you your hairstyle to go home to see your son, and you received that phone call same time you started to tell me how you felt, and you was gonna change your mind from going after getting that phone call until you started to talk to your sister on BBM. Then you say you worked too hard, you're going, and only to hear this tragic news. There was a lot of speculation about what could have caused Susan to take the life of her sister. The Gleaner reported one person from the neighborhood as saying that they always had problems with the house and that neither sister wanted the other to live there. It's also believed that Susan may have used some of the money that Stacey Ann was sending to make additions to the house. She may have used that for other purposes. She was charged with murder, but that charge was later downgraded to manslaughter. Susan pleaded guilty to manslaughter at 38 years old in 2014, 2 years after the tragic killing. Now, after Susan pleaded guilty to manslaughter, she was scheduled to be sentenced a week later. However, I couldn't find any details of her sentencing, but the sentencing for manslaughter can range from life in prison to as little as probation. So it is very possible that Susan Smith is free and living her life in Jamaica right now.